Okay, so we're now joined by LaCrese Green, who's running for the Seattle School Board at position 5. So go ahead with a 2-minute introduction.
I am LaCrese Green, and I have a bachelor's degree in home economics and business administration. I have been a teacher, a tutor, and an advocate all these years. For the last 15 years, I have been a tutor and an advocate for children of the Ethiopian immigrants, and I have dealt with the schools, and when I've been asked to help with the schools, and so I've been in many of the schools, and I have also attended the board meetings and student learning committees in order to, I fought against school closures and against reform math. I have also was in the student learning committee when TAP, or Technology Academic Foundation, was trying to become a part of Rainier Beach. Thankfully, that was not accepted. And I am running this time for the sake of the child and his education. And I would like to mention some things that I think would be better for the children. One, better math books. I would like to save Indian Heritage High School, as well as reopen African American Academy. I would like to have use sound physical practices. I think that we need to, and I would like to have tests that inform the students rather than vague statistics later on. I would like to see that our schools were kept open and public, and I would appreciate your votes.
Great, thank you. So now we'll open it up to, we'll do our prepared questions that we ask all candidates for school board. We have 5 of them, and these are 2-minute answers. People should have copies. And actually, John, will you start us going clockwise with question number 1?
Sure. Assuming the legislature actually increases funding for Seattle public schools in response to the McCleary decision, what are your priorities for spending money?
1, textbooks for all students.
I guess so.
2, I would like to see the money go to help the teachers. Right now, the teachers need help. I think that the standardized test does not help us. I think that if we gave a test and found out there was a gap in what the student should know, academic gap that the student should know, I think we should put somebody in that classroom right then to help that student catch up. So that's where I would spend the money.
Okay, thank you.
Question number 2.
In your view, what is the appropriate role of the school board in determining curriculum? And what is your opinion on the current curriculum?
You already got it. I don't like reform math. Number 2, I do think we need to go back to what they call the traditional math, or the old math. I have wondered what was on the college entrance math exam, because over 50% of our students fail that test and have to take remedial math in the community colleges. And I was this year fortunate to be able to see a test. It was a placement test, college placement test. And in the test, it had equations. The first question was an equation. And the student looked at me and said, "Do you know how to work this?" And I said, "I have no clue. But I know it can be worked because it's an equation." When I said it can be worked, students in the room got interested. They came to the computer with intensity. "I can do this." And we began to work those problems. And we worked those problems, and sometimes I would just read the problem. And somebody said, "Well, you can do this and you can do that with it." And then we'd read it again. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. At the end, one student who had pushed his chair back against the wall says, "I can do this." He could do what? "I can go and take this test and make a good grade on it." So I think that was the most perfect setting for a teacher. I would like for every class to be that way.
Jack, number 3.
What is your outreach strategy to make the district and schools more approachable for non-English speaking families?
Right now, we have a problem with the board. The board has cut out all public input by they have cut off the petitioners and delegate session, and they have, the only way that you can speak before the board is through a 3-minute blurb, you know? And so I believe that we should put back the petitioners and delegate session back on that board. Then I believe that if we go back and get some books, like in the math class, if we get some books like Saxon Math, then I believe that we will be satisfying the majority of the people. The people will be at peace, will be at, over this thing. And therefore, the minorities, I want to reach out to everyone in the community. And I want to represent them on the board. I want to bring their issues to the board, and the board has to make a decision. Right now, you can't even sign a petition, and it's filed under lock and key, and the only way you can ever see it is to go back and with public disclosure request, that's the only way anybody sees it. They never take action. I don't believe in waiting for a day, I believe that I should present this as an agenda item this month, this meeting, and the next one get some results. That's the way I think.
Elizabeth, number 4.
In your view, what should the school board be doing to assure equal educational and achievement opportunity in Seattle Public Schools?
If we have an issued textbook, then it would equalize what is taught district-wide. And then, what was your question?
In your view, what should the school board be doing to assure equal educational and achievement opportunity in Seattle Public Schools?
Once we get all on board, this is what will be taught in this class. Then I believe at that point, that's what's going to unify us, and that's what's going to move us all forward. I believe that if a child is falling behind academic, the teacher should find that out and should be able to have someone there to help catch that kid up. And that will bring us all forward. I believe all quality classes should be taught district-wide. I don't believe in STEM over at Cleveland and not at Rainier Beach. You follow what I'm saying? They should be in every school. That's what I said. That's how I would address that issue.
Okay. Mary, number 5.
Last year, voters approved Initiative 1240, which allows the establishment of charter schools. What impact, what impact will this have on Seattle Public Schools, and how should the school board respond?
I was against the charter schools, but I believe that if we get quality education for all students across the board, to me, that is the only way we can address that issue. I have no idea how many is going to go, charter, to the charter school away from the public schools. I am afraid of this, that your A students and B students are going over there. So that's going to leave us with, the lower. Right now, we've had APP program, and the APP program has your A students. The spectrum students were your B students. So if you pull those two out of the schoolhouse, you only had the C, D's, and F's. You follow what I'm saying? And so this is what my concern about that, that charter school is.
Great. So now we'll open it up to follow-up questions from the executive board. These are 1-minute answers to each of these. So any questions, John? And then I have one.
Your issue with the math textbooks and the math curriculum, are you referring to, I guess, what's been called, what's the name for it? Integration math?
Okay, the term that has been used was reform math, and then versus traditional or Saxon math. Whenever we were working that equation problems the other day, or the test, in here was every one of those problems was worked. Every problem that's on the test was in here. With reform math or integrated math, with CMP2 was the program they adopted for middle schools, and they said that middle school students did not have any teaching, nor any instructions in the workbook. So that's what I want to get rid of.
Can I do a quick follow-up on that one?
Oh, sure.
What I'm referring to, and I don't like this, my son went through this in school, was they would integrated math, would integrate algebra, geometry, trig into kind of a big mishmash, and they would just teach around things. And he never got a good foundation in math, and so if that's what you're talking about, I'm all for that.
That's what I'm talking about, brother. I
Okay,
do.
thank you.
Okay, so I have a question. So my sense is that Seattle Public Schools board member is an impossible job to do well. It's part-time, it's essentially unpaid, there's no staff, and you're trying to supervise a budget that's over $1 billion. So are there any reforms of the school board itself as an entity that you support to make the job more meaningful?
Number one, I am in this for the sake of the child. I do not see this as an impossible task. I believe that it can be done. If I didn't believe it could be done, I wouldn't be running, okay? I believe this can be done. I believe we can get rid of the math problem by going back to traditional math as it is taught in the Saxon math program. You follow what I'm saying? And so, with the school board, I believe there are a lot of things that needs to be changed on that. And I have my voters pamphlet is going to address that. The things that we need to change. And what we need to change, folks, I believe, is to go back and keep the law. Keep the law. We need to go back and let the people have a part in it. I have a say.
Great. Other questions from the executive board? Mary, did you have?
There was something I read today in an article trying to deal with helping the school board members do their job. And one suggestion was that they should be paid. And then along in the article, somebody else suggested that instead of paying school board members, that they should have some staff people to help them do the work, do the volume of work that they get. Do you have any comments on those proposals?
I went to the Washington State Directors Association meeting, and that's a state organization where all the school directors have to belong to. In 2005, I ran in 2005 for the same job. And at the time, they were they were trying to put me in a straitjacket, instill fear in me, and I said, no way. I'm not going to have that. I believe, and so there was a man there, Peter Brinson, who was president of the Bellevue School District, and he said that he had about a dozen emails a month, and that he only, most of them were thank you notes, and that he spent about 10 hours a month on school board matters. That's where I want to go.
Do you follow up? Do you think that's possible in a city that's so much larger?
This is a larger community, but at the same time, Mary Bass had said that she was getting over 300 against school motions and so forth and so on, and nobody can deal with that. I do think it's going to take time. But I believe that it can be done if we will go back to keeping the law. I believe that. If we will give people a chance to have input, we will work with the teachers to assist them in what they need and provide the tools and resources they need, get all the excess stuff off of them, you know, the cumbersome stuff off of them, the writing up of the plans and, and so forth and so on. If we give teachers the ability to teach in the classroom, and that's all, that's job is, then I believe we can go back to a peaceful society. That's where I'm going. That's my goal.
Clayton, sorry.
This is a follow-up on an earlier question. It's been obvious in the last few years, last 10 years maybe, that people in the school board have a problem of vision.
Problem of what?
Vision into the organizational structure and operations of the district. That the operational roles of members of the school board are askew. They're in conflict with the complexity of the work that's being done by the staff. And there's, the audit mechanism in particular has, shall we say, been called into question. I wonder what your thoughts are about that kind of problem as a prospective school board.
In the last 10 years, we went downhill. We started on a slippery slope and have gone continually downhill. Okay. If you looked at it, I know you've heard in the papers where the directors or the heads of the departments have, staying only a year or two and so forth and so on. Did you realize that we've had 6 superintendents in the last 18 years? They don't last but over 3 years, And also the communication between the superintendent and the board. The president of the board sent a letter to the memo to the new superintendent. He felt like that she was telling him what to do, running his job. She says, no, that wasn't it. Cut out that bickering. We need to cut that out. We need to be professionals instead of, just bickering back and forth. We need some stability in this department. Once we get that, then we can go forward, I believe.
Okay. Additional questions for LaCrese? I have one. Do you have any thoughts on Teach for America? And
No way.
thank you. Any other questions for LaCrese?
I do not believe. We need stability. We do not need a fly-by-night with a 2-bit education coming in here. We need somebody with stability. We also need a superintendent that is from here, who knows what's happened in the last 10 or 20 years here in Seattle. We don't need somebody coming in and using a hard hand, and going to run somebody off or fire somebody if they have a question,
Additional questions?
Do I have 48 seconds?
If you want to keep answering that last question, sure.
May I please?
Sure.
In 2003, I went to Olympia and asked them, the legislators, to quit funding and quit supporting the WASO. I went there for 5 years. I was surprised that finally the teachers had caught on and boycotted it this year. You follow me? Then for that superintendent not to know the hell that we've been drugged through with that test, to come in, it was just, no. We need somebody that knows what's been going on and would help. If, in my opinion, what I would have done, I would have said, okay, don't knock something until you got something better. Bring me a test that should be given to the 10th graders. I believe as a teacher I can make up a good test. I believe you could too, if you were a teacher. I don't care which test we use, but make up one that can be used and let's use it. That's what I would do.
Time for maybe one more question?
What the WASO do they go back to the child and so that he or she can see their mistakes and then have them learn from those mistakes? That's the problem.
I believe that everything that you do in school should be a learning experience or reinforcing. And if you give that child a test, that is a learning experience for him. And if you give that child a test, you should sit there and tell them what they did wrong and so forth and so on. I believe that I can look at a test just as good as any of you. I also believe that I can grade that test and give the results back to that student. So why do we have to send it to Timbuktu to do that? So I'm saying that we need to have tests right then, and the answers within a reasonable time. And that it be a learning rather than a cutting off some of the test scores was used as an assessment for the schools such as African American Academy, trying to see where they had to come forward. But the superintendent and the board used it as a cutoff. They closed the school on account. I'm against that.
Great, so we're about out of time. If you want to take 30 seconds for a closing statement.
I really appreciate you letting me come and speak to you guys, and I've enjoyed this, and I hope that you will see fit to support me. This is what I want to do. This is what I have been preaching for the last 10 years, so that I'm not going to be making any changes, you know. This is cut and dried as far as I'm concerned, you know, and I would appreciate your help. I cannot do this race up by myself.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.